Thank you. Welcome to our Infrastructure Services Committee meeting on the 13th of September. This meeting will be audio recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. There are to be no other recordings of this meeting without the prior authorisation of the committee. Do we have any applications for meeting video via video link?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moves on. Any apologies?
Councillor Clout has sent her apology in. She won't be here.
Okay, we have a mover and a second for that, please.
Moved.
Seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, I think the ayes have it. Declarations of interest. Do we have any?
Nil received.
Nil received. Public participation.
There's been no speaker forms
No.
lodged.
Okay, thank you. Business items. We'll move on to business items. On page 3, ISC 9.1 Works Program Infrastructure. Graham Wilson, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report is provided and just a couple of items. Our percentage effluent recycle again this month is low because of the demand has been low. So that's under budget, under our expected budget on an expected amount. But I don't think there's anything other than that in the report that's different, much different. But happy to take questions from the floor.
Yes, I have a question. There was some concern expressed regarding this, perhaps in your area, the success of the FOGO, the green bins. That are they being used to any amount or just not? There seemed to be some conjecture that they weren't being used, mainly I think because they didn't have anything to put in them. Do you know anything about that?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that's appropriate for this item.
Right.
This is water and
Okay.
sewer.
All right. I'll bring it up later.
Through the chair, I'll give you one item. We did meet with a representative from Decentralised Water Consulting about the Cassler sewer system.
Yes.
We are looking at every possible option for doing works there. At this point in time, we haven't had a response from them, but it potentially could be a hybrid system, but it potentially also won't be within the scope of the grant that we currently have. So we're still looking at that. Thank you.
Would it be any well, we don't know, I suppose. Have to wait for that report. It may or may not come in any different, any cheaper than the original Cardno.
Correct. It's very unlikely that their option is likely to be a hybrid system. So it could have a range of solutions,
Right.
but it's certainly we're not expecting it to be any different to the costs that we currently have against the Cardno scope of work.
And did they give any indication of when the report would be ready?
At this point in time, they said a couple of weeks, and that was a week or so
right.
ago. So
Yeah.
we haven't received it yet.
Okay. Just that there's an election coming up next year, and perhaps if we had things ready, priced and designed, then we could perhaps use that to our advantage.
Sure, that's probably the last option we have to review before we sort of put our hands on our heart and say that we don't have a solution.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Graham. Any further questions or comments? Then being no further questions and comments, I'll now put the
Moved.
seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, I think the ayes have it. I'd like to turn over now to page 8, ISC 9.2. Works Program, Infrastructure Services, Works Delivery. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I will assume that the report has been reviewed, so I'm happy to take on any questions or queries in regard to that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Sam, is this the last list of upgrading work? Is this your new one? Grading program?
Through the Chair, this is a new.
The latest updated one.
Correct.
So I can use this to concern residents, knowing it's true and correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? The grading program and because of the wet weather, how are we going with that? Have we got all the graders in use, or are they, some of them parked up?
So currently, you would have received an email from Matt outlining where the graders are at. So in Merriwar and Scone, we did have graders stood down, and that was due to staff availability and being able to service different areas. So for example, our sealed roads had a lot of potholes on it. I couldn't get a contractor in to fill those potholes, so I had to use our crews to do that. And then in turn, I was able to engage contract grader operators to make up the difference with our crews.
Right. How many road patching crews have we got going at the present time? Though you're quite correct that everywhere you go that there is bad potholes, some worse than others. But I'm just wondering, do we have a dedicated crew just doing that? Because I've only seen them at a number of areas, a number of places. How are we going with that?
It's a challenge. It's a day-to-day project, really. It depends on staff availability and what other projects we've got going. So, for example, in the Merriwar area, most of the guys are out on the highway. We've got our RMCC contract that we've got to fulfill. So 80% of the staff would be on that. We do have one crew over there pothole patching with cold mix. In the Scone area, we've got the jet patcher doing prep for the reseal. And I've also got another crew spot patching with cold mix as well.
So in the Merriwar area, and there's one crew that's all they're doing.
Well, currently, but that's a day-to-day proposal as well, because depends on who turns up on the day. Yeah, depends where the staff are allocated.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, a very big challenge. What about the progress on the intersection of the Gundy Glenbourne Road? How's that? Is that part and parcel of this project?
So that's underway. We're widening the culverts currently. The bases have been poured on the left-hand lane. They're forming up the crowns and the wing walls currently. So I would expect they'd be out there for another 2 to 3 weeks before the culvert extensions are done, and then we'll move on to the earthworks.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Oh, you can get first if you wish, Councillor McPhee.
Would you like to turn your microphone on, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the lights at that intersection, at the roadworks there, I think they're designed for long roads. There's a lot of life contemplation when you're waiting for the lights to turn green. Is there any way to have changed that so it's at a shorter distance? It's a good couple of minutes each way. And I think what could happen is that people get impatient and then drive through a red light, which could be actually a problem. They're very, like, you're waiting a long time for those lights to change at a very short intersection.
Through the chair, I'll review that, but there is set times with those units. So there is a minimum and then there's a maximum range that you can work within. So I'll just double check to see where they're set. Yep.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Sam, the flood relief money from the state government, the floods in November, have we got that coming through just on the grading program? That seems to be.
Through the chair, it won't be on the grading program, and we're still waiting to get confirmation. So there is a little bit of an update there in the report in regards to the flood damage and where we're at with it. But to date, we haven't got confirmation that that's been approved.
So, yeah, through Mr. Chair, Mr. GM, I think maybe we need to rattle him up a bit. I mean, I know November's a long time for residents to be up there with still flood damaged roads. I think we've done our best by keeping the roads to passable. But I'm having troubles myself saying that we still haven't got the money, which is not our fault, it's the funding body.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just in response to the Mayor's comments, we've had a couple of meetings with Transport for New South Wales. We've put a claim in for 10.6 million for the November flood. There is some pushback, I guess, from the state government in regard to what is claimable and what is not. So we're waiting for a final figure on that. Unfortunately, one of the processes is that we have to wait for them to do their assessment before we can do the repair work. So it looks as if we're doing nothing while we're waiting for assessment. We've asked for permission to commence doing some of the repair work now that most of the work is done. And that's something that Sam and his team are starting to look at so that we can actually commence. And of course, what we're not talking about here is the March flood. There's a further series of damage from the March flood that needs to be assessed. So the hope is that we can start working on that while we continue to have the negotiations with Transport for New South Wales, but at least the physical works will commence.
Okay, so in effect, we can't really do. What's the difference between making something trafficable and doing some minor repairs? Is there any difference? It seems to be not correct. It's just one and the same thing.
No, I think in some instances, making it trafficable might be just making the surface suitable for vehicles, whereas a proper repair might include drainage works, ripping, actual re-importing more material in to actually thicken the pavement depth up. So there could be considerable difference between just an emergency trafficable repair and the final repair work.
All right. Okay. Sam, I also noted in the cycleway footpath at Merry Wharf that there was $74,000 spent. I think it's coming along well, but now some of the surfaces, apart from the cement surfaces on the tar, are they the finished product, or is it something to go over them as well?
Chair, no. So in Road Street and Blaxland Street, those two sections are 90% complete.
Right.
So when we seal Hackett's Lane, we'll be sealing those two sections. So
The final seal.
final seal. So basically they'll just need a final trim and then a seal.
Yeah. And also down in front of the sports club, that had a lot of gutter work to be, shall we say, rehabilitated or reformed. What's the progress there?
Chair, so we've got that's in the program to be replaced.
The next one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's curb and gutter replacement plus some heavy patching in the car park.
Right.
Yep.
The area in coming around the Road Street, not Road Street, McCartney Street, I think it is, and Venica Street. It goes past the Catholic school and presbytery. Is that going to, in other words, where are we up to with reclaiming some of that land or obtaining some of that land from that corner?
Chair, we're currently speaking to the parish.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And also the Flags Road, I think we're not Flags Road, it's always been a problem. The other road that links up down with the, which one is that? That's comes off the highway. We had a lot of complaints about that. Escapes me. Redwell Road, yes. Has that been assessed? I think the mayor went down there and had some difficulty with his little car getting through. Yeah, there are. I know of two sections there that would contain quite a lot of wash and would be almost impassable because of the wash, and also the road surfaces doesn't have any gravel on it. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so Chair, that will be, well, there's a couple of things happening there, I guess. It's a rural fall road, so spot patching at best. And then that is also part of the flood claim. So we need to, I'm not aware that it's impassable at the moment, but
Possibly not now, but if you get a small amount of rain and it is very slippery because it's the normal earth on top of it, which is pretty, it's usually a red chocolate soil. And it also is sort of the alternate route when you can't cross the Bow Creek. That's where they go in from that southern side.
yeah. Okay, well, like I said, it's a class 4 road, so.
All right, at this stage. Okay, all right then. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, all right, well then, can we have a mover and a seconder, please?
Second.
Okay, any further, or all those in favour, please say aye. Against, I think the ayes have it. Are we through to page 28? Are we on to 22? Okay, 22. Sam, you're on again.
Thank you, Chair. This report sort of aligns with the capital expenditure. So I don't know, do we need to run through both, or how do you want to? In the past, we've just done one.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I guess,
Probably we need to just ask, I think we've discussed in the Moon End Brook Road.
Yep.
Where are we up to with that?
So Graham's disappeared, but Graham's sort of looking after that project.
Is he?
So he would be the one to probably give us a better update on where that's at.
What I can probably give you a quick update on that one, Mr. Chair. So the tenders are still being assessed. Some of the projects being redesigned to try and bring the project back in line with our budget. That's involved looking at some of the pipe work, I believe, along the road, some of the strength of the road and the assumptions in the design and the realignment of the road. There were some sections of the road that were aligned for high-speed traffic, but of course we can reduce that back to, say, a 70k design or thereabouts, and being gravel road, still be within sort of quite a safe design. So unless Mr. Bush's got anything further to add, that's sort of the situation we're at. We may be in a position in the September meeting to bring a proposed tenderer to you, but I haven't seen a final report, so I'm not able to promise that at this stage. All right.
No, that's the case, Mr. Chairman. I think within 3 weeks we'll have a report coming to council, but just waiting on the final revised estimate or tendered costs from the preferred contractor. And I think we're just putting a cost together ourselves to have a look at some of the work that council may be able to undertake that's been reduced in the scope.
Will that mean a reduced scope of works?
Yes,
Yes, I don't.
but we'll go as far as we can with the funds we have.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask the question again. Have we sourced the material from local gravel quarries? Number one. And number two, have we talked to the landholders about land acquisitions or fence lines or whatever?
Through the chair, I can only answer about the gravel. So we're looking at gravel sources, and to date I haven't been able to get on to the property owner at Half Moon. So it'll be I guess I'm going to have to drive up there and catch up with him myself, because I've left several phone messages, and to date haven't received a response.
Just a question, has there been any knowledge or development of mixing things with the particular gravel? Some of the sources of gravel are not the the highest of grades. They probably have an issue, have some issue with them. Is there any potential of mixing them with something to to make them a more stable compact?
Yep, through the chair. Yes,
Right.
when we source the gravel, we'll get it tested and a design made from the gravel sourced. So yes, you can.
So,
All right.
Mr. Chair, I know on keep arguing on gravel. When we find the source of gravel, we'll get it tested. We're going to go out for tender in September. And I think I read their construction maybe late this year, early in the new year. I would think we'd have all that gravel source and testing and everything shovel ready. Just to,
Through you, Mr. Chair, the tender, under the tenderer has to provide his own gravel. So he's already priced gravel into his project. That's his responsibility. And where he draws that from is down to him. What we're trying to do is trying to find alternate sources of gravel, which may reduce the cost, but it's already built into the cost of the tender. It's not like we don't have a source. Now, if the tenderer is proposing to bring material from a significant distance and the cartage costs are high, if we can find a source closer, then that will reduce the cost overall. But there is a supply as part of the tender that's been proposed.
okay, Mr. Chair, I have trouble putting my head around that. But the second question is, have the landholders been notified of fence lines and land? To my knowledge, no.
Through the chair, that'd have to be a question for Graham in special projects.
Okay, I'll just take that one on notice.
All right. Okay. Do we have any further questions or comments?
Well, on that one, Mr. Chair, but are we going through the?
Yep.
Oh, well, I've got one on Cameron's Bridge on 176. Same thing, gravel not being able to be sourced locally. So budget's blowing out. Did we try and source that gravel from Ripple gravel quarries?
Through the chair, yes, we did.
And not suitable.
Correct.
Do we want to go through this?
That's up to you and the committee, Mr. Chair. If the committee's got particular questions, they can raise them and we'll answer
Well, we've
them.
only just got them, so I think we'll just quickly and briefly go through them. We just pick them up and go through them. Yeah, okay, page 2, line items 1 to 42. Line item 13, the plant purchases, capital expenditure. There was a lag on that some time ago. It's all been caught up with the purchases of the plant and equipment all taken place that's required.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that budget allocation of 250,000 is for this year. And as you can see, we've only spent a small amount, but a number of orders are in the system for plant purchases.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that page? Otherwise, we'll move on to line item 43 to 94. Any questions or comments? Okay, turn over then to page 4, line item 95 to 146. Anything further? Line item 107, the Merriwell Venica lighting pedestrian crossings. Anything going further? I thought we had $70,000. We've only got $60,000 now. Is there any update on that? Do you know anything? What's happening?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think we gave a report to the last Community Advisory Committee on that one. I'd have to refer back to that to check the latest status, but
Matt,
that was about a month ago.
you gave us that one too.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, I believe we're waiting on a survey of that crossing.
Yeah,
That's correct, Sam.
yeah, correct. So consultant's been engaged. We're just waiting for him to undertake the works.
Okay. So at this stage, we're still going with the electricity that the solar power, I think, was discounted. Was that correct? Right, okay. All right, we shall just have to wait then. All right, line items 147 to 198.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Jeff, you might be able to 177 for all our bridge grant funding we got. When are we going to start?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I believe we're starting on Little Street Bridge in Murundui early October. But and I hope that's the case, and then the other ones at Wardens Creek and Scotts Creek should follow.
Line item 193, the Bobbyella Creek Bridge. I haven't been up that road for quite some time, so as it might be completed. Would that be correct?
Bobby Allen.
Mr. Chair, looking at the expenditure of $5,000, my suspicion is no.
Bob, you're right.
Bobby Allen, that tender, that was just awarded, I believe, and Bobby Allen's in the second stage of the program.
Yeah, I think there was $1 million something for that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we're still chasing more funding, obviously.
More funding.
Additional funding because the cost of the structures have gone up quite substantially.
Gee.
Funding.
So where are we up to with that bridge anyway? It's not
That'll be in the early design stage.
really. Okay. All right, let's turn over to page 6, line item 199 to 250.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sam, Muffet Street construction, I think that's a great job up to where we've finished up to a little side street there. Is your plan to put a pipe under that, where that stormwater's coming off Taipower?
So yeah, through the chair, yes. Yeah, so that'll be stage 2, but we're looking at doing that sooner rather than
Under the
later.
maintenance budget.
Yep.
Yeah, it needs to be done. Yeah, that needs to be done. No, that's good. I think that's a great job up there and well done.
Thanks.
Okay, then page line item 251 to 293. Any questions or comments on that? If not, turn over the page, please, to page 8. Line items 294 to 341. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll have a mover and a seconder for ISC 9.3. Seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, I think the ayes have it. Turn over to page 28, ISC 9.4, MR 358, Willow Tree Road upgrade. Wouldn't that be good?
Well, I can give you a quick update on physically where we are, and I think the general manager could probably speak on the funding.
Thank you.
I was out there last week. That obviously the road's still closed.
Yes.
I had a good look at the road itself, and it's stabilised. Where council's undertaken the removal of the overburden of the earthworks, it hasn't moved too much further. So, as the status of the road in that sense hasn't changed over the last 6 months, despite all the rain we've had. So it's holding up quite well. We've just received our final, or we're waiting on our final P90 cost estimate, which we need to go into the final project proposal report if we're seeking the funding from the federal government. So that's been received. We're just reviewing that at the moment. And we've completed the management plans, the last of the management plans, which is the environmental management plan, excuse me, and the project management plan. We have our next project control group meeting at the end of October, which is probably just following the any kind of budget announcements. So we're ready to go and just waiting on funding. Yeah.
Mr. GM, can you just give us perhaps an update for those who are listening otherwise?
Sure, Mr. Chair. As the council is aware, the mayor and I travelled to Canberra last week and met with the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Catherine King. Her comment to us was that whilst it was an election promise by the National Party, it wasn't a matched election promise by the Labor Party. And as a result, all of those election promises from all the parties that weren't matched by the Labor Party are being reviewed. Now, the list is quite long and the budget doesn't cover all the projects. So they're working through which projects make the cut and which ones don't. We should know that by the end of October when the budget is released. The concern, I guess, for us is that we, as Jeff's pointed out, we're effectively sitting around now twiddling our thumbs waiting for an announcement because all the paperwork's done, all the design's done. We can't call tenders. It's been suggested to me, well, why don't you call tenders while you're waiting? Well, it's for a project of this size and only having probably 20% of the funding secured, it wouldn't be appropriate to call tenders. You'd have tenderers expending time and effort putting in a tender that may not ever be come to fruition. So we put to the minister what was our options if it doesn't get passed in the October budget. There is a budget review in May. The concern is that number one, there's still no certainty of May getting the funding, and two, there's probably a fairly a large degree of certainty of a increase in costs if you wait a further 6 months or thereabouts. So that's our concern at this stage. We do know that the Labor representative for the Hunter, Dan Rapicoli, was supportive of this project prior to the election. And the Labor candidate for the New England was also apparently supportive. So we have reached out to Dan to ask for his support as well. The mayor and I met with him probably a couple of months ago, just as a meet and greet area. And you know, he seemed supportive of it at that stage. So, you know, we're hoping that he can maybe bring some representation to the minister on our behalf in that regard.
So through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Gentleman, yeah, I think seeing Parliament is not sitting during the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's probably a good time for us to meet up with Dan again and make sure we can get him to certainly back us through to the next step.
Mr. Chair, I did send an email to Dan last week when we returned. So given the circumstances with Parliament stopping early, I think the Mayor's probably quite right. We might reach out to him and try and organise a meeting with him now.
Okay, any further questions or comments? It all depends on the funding. So I guess as much as we can represent the private citizens as well as to support council in this way to try and gain funding, then the matter can proceed. But without the funding, council can't proceed. So I think that's possibly a message that it'd be very good for any organisation or individuals that they might support council in their quest for funding. All right, we're moving a seconder, please. I see 9.4. Move. All those in favour, please say if that's against. I think the ayes have it. Okay. Page 33, ISC 9.5, responsive to councillor questions. It would appear that Councillor Campbell is the only one that's asked. I think I asked that one earlier regarding the Red Bull Road. Sam, you've got that in hand, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for that. I'll move it, I guess. You second it. Let's be noted and accepted. Thank you. Declare the meeting closed. Thank you.